Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyatha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishakam Vitam Sya Om Ajnana Timarandasya Yanajana Shilakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gorva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipunam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govinda Bidam Ujalam Varatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwa Gurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Premno Ibija Pradam Devam Divyatanum Suchanavaranam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyambudim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shivaram Madeka Sharanam Nyashishwara Sridharam Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're hearing from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Hidden Treasure of the Sweet Absolute, with translation and commentary by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj. This is chapter 3, Karma Yoga, the Path of Action. So because the last class we gave, the microphone wasn't working, now we're going to repeat the verses that we discussed. So chapter 3, text number 27. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha hankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. All actions in the world are in every respect affected by the modes of material nature, which impel the senses. But a man deluded by bodily identification thinks, I alone am accomplishing this work. And ahankara vimudatma, confused by ahankara, false ego, he's thinking, kartaham iti manyate. Kartaham, I am the doer. That's what this means. I alone am accomplishing this work. Tattvavitu mahabaho guna karma vibhagayo guna guneshu vartanta iti matva nasajjate. However, O mighty armed Arjuna, one who is in knowledge of the division of the modes of material nature and action knows that the modes are engaging within the modes and he is detached from them. One who knows that the three modes activated by the demigods impel the engagement of the senses with their objects knows himself to be independent of these elements. Therefore, he does not consider himself a doer. So elsewhere we hear about these modes of nature, sattva-gun, rajagun, tamagun, the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, the mode of ignorance. Sometimes one of the modes of nature may take predominance, and somebody may be, on rare occasions, predominated by the mode of goodness, but then passion may overcome the mode of goodness, or ignorance may overcome the other modes. But in those cases, one's actions are not so freely chosen as one might think. The modes of nature are impelling one to act, and in a particular manner, and then one meets up with the objects of the senses, and one is actually driven and controlled by these modes of nature. So therefore, if one is thinking, kartaham, I'm the doer, that's a mistaken conception, because one's not free in one's actions. Now, I suppose there's some philosophers that would tell you about existentialism and how you can choose. But really, when you're controlled as if like you're bound by ropes or chains, I don't really see where you're independent in your actions. And that's the actual fact. Prakrite guna samuda sajante guna karmasu tan akrishna vido mandan krishna vin na vichalayet. Persons bewildered by the modes of nature are absorbed in the functions of the modes, the engagement of the senses with their objects. Enlightened persons should not agitate such ignorant, unfortunate persons by trying to convince them of higher philosophical truths. Rather, they should advise the conditioned souls to practice selfless action, which liberates them from absorption in the modes. So, what is the point of engaging with someone in a philosophical discussion of whether free will exists or whether destiny exists? You can go on discussing that point for so long, but it won't accomplish anything. Here, rather, the advice is given that the conditioned soul should be advised to perform selfless action, which will liberate them from the control of the modes. So what does that mean, to advise them to engage in selfless action? Well, this chapter is Karma Yoga. So at least you can begin to think about offering the results of your labor to the Lord, and don't be so attached to it. Now, I know on even mundane religions, they have one way of people give a certain percentage of what they earn to some religion, and that is kind of like their duty, and they do that. So that's not bad. Of course, that's a little hard for people to consider if they're just barely able to pay their bills, and even so, they're going deeply in debt. But this kind of action of giving up something of your hard-attained fruits and offering to the Lord, that will be good for one's development. Then we can have some idea of what is karma yoga, offering the results of one's endeavors. And I heard Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, even if you have nothing to offer, you can offer your tears. Which I thought was a nice article I read by Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Mai sarvani karmani samyas yad yatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yud yashva vigata jvara. Surrender all your activities to me with this understanding. All my actions are under the control of the indwelling Lord. And such consciousness, free from possessiveness and anguish, take recourse to battle as your natural duty. So, of course, this is a philosophical discussion. It's not just a philosophical discussion in the sense that this is called the Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God. Krishna is directing this conversation to his devotee Arjuna. So then there are some applications of what Krishna is saying, because they're discussing prior to the engagement in the battle of Kurukshetra. So what Krishna says here has very much pertinence to Arjuna, because he's a warrior. He's one of the Pandavas. He's one of the major players in this battle. So then Krishna is talking about the philosophy or the discussion is on karma yoga. Offer your labor and the results of your labor to the Lord. So here, Krishna says, so surrender all your activities to me with this understanding. All my actions are under the control of the indwelling Lord. In such circumstances, in such consciousness, free from possessiveness and anguish, take recourse to battle as your natural duty. Because if you're going to offer the results of your endeavors, your actions to the Lord, and you're a warrior, then this will naturally tie in to offering the results of your activities to the Lord. He's fighting, that's his activity, warrior. Then engage yourself in what is a worthy endeavor. This is something to be done as an offering to the Lord. The Lord wants this. Now, of course, here at this point we could get into arguments with with moralists and persons who say, war is always wrong, it's always bad, people always suffer. No doubt people always suffer when there is war. And no doubt it is very hideous. That no one debates that point. But there are times when it's the only recourse. If someone is an aggressor, is attacking, just like if an aggressor is attacking your family, your house, you have no other recourse than to defend yourself. So in those cases, there may be an adoption of violence. Normally, that's not the case. I remember one time I was in a class studying a subject which they wouldn't call that nowadays, but it was called then public relations. And one of the definitions they had is that war is the accomplishment or the endeavor to accomplish one's economic ideals, but by violence. In other words, it's not, as some people may say, it's not always lofty ideals they say about spreading democracy or this or that. It's also the continuation of one's economic policies, but by violent means. Sometimes that comes into, but that's not the case here. This is not the case with the Battle of Kurukshetra. The Pandavas are engaged in what we might call a defensive position. Because they tried to make peace, they said, all right, we don't want this war. You just give us each, we're the rightful royal family, but just give us a little village where we can, each one of the Pandavas, the 5 Pandavas, each one of us can rule over one small village. And the Kauravas, they said, we will not give you enough land in which to drive a pin or a needle. We won't give you that much land. Whatever you get, you will have to engage in fighting. And with the understanding, we'll try to kill you. But they tried to seek a peaceful arrangement. Could not happen. Then text number 31. Ye me matamidam nityam anutishtanti manava shravanto nasuyanto muchante te karma bi. Faithful, unbegrudging men who always practice my teaching, this yoga of selfless action, are liberated from the bondage of action, even though they engage in action. So, faithful, unbegrudging men who always practice my teaching, this yoga of selfless action, are liberated from the bondage of action, even though they engage in action. So there is a practice by which you can engage in action, but you are not bound by the results of that action. Normally, people are very much bound by the results of their actions. But as it says in the beginning of the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Sarva Karana Karanam. That Krishna is the cause of all causes. And Srila Maharaj used to say that reality is by itself and for itself. So ultimately, reality is by itself because Krishna is the cause of all causes. Yeah. Therefore, if you act on Krishna's behalf, you're not the doer and you're not bound by the results of those actions. So reality is by itself and for itself. Srila Maharaj also explains that actually Krishna is in the center and everything should be flowing towards serving him. Everything should be flowing in his direction. So reality is by itself. There is no cause for Krishna. There is no cause for his actions. Reality is by itself and for itself. Krishna is the only enjoyer. So then, Yatvetad abhyasuyanto nanutishtanti me matam sarvagyana vimudam stan vidim nashtan achetasa. But the arrogant who resent my teaching are bereft of all knowledge. Know them to be lost in ignorance. But the arrogant who resent my teaching are bereft of all knowledge. Know them to be lost in ignorance. They're very arrogant, self-centered. They don't want to accept Krishna as the worshipable Supreme Lord, that everything should be done for his satisfaction. Arrogant people think, rather, like we heard, kartaham iti manyate. Kartaham, I'm the doer. Are the deities in the picture?
Yeah, it's more like that.
Oh. Okay. But the arrogant who resent my teaching are bereft of all knowledge. Know them to be lost in ignorance. Okay, now we're on 33. Can you turn more light on the altar? Sadrisham cheshtate svasya prakriter gyanavan api prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. For even a knowledgeable person tends to act according to his nature, mundane inclinations. The living being's endeavors are dictated by their natures. What then can repression accomplish? And it's really, this is a very legitimate question. What can repression accomplish? One will be driven to act by the modes of nature, first of all. The nature of the soul is to be always active. Now we've heard of 4 different levels of actions, or we heard there is what is called active intelligence, lazy intelligence, lazy foolishness, and an active foolishness. So the worst is active foolishness. That's the worst. Better lazy foolishness, because the person's asleep, they can't accomplish as much foolish things as when they're active. Then there's lazy intelligence, and then there's active intelligence. But it is the nature of the soul to be active. So at least if you're acting on Krishna's behalf, your own nature won't foul things up as much. If you're acting in the direction of, Krishna's representative, the spiritual master. And Srila Maharaj gave an example of that. He said, we've all come, you could say we're all in a situation where we are minor souls, meaning we're underage, and we're not very realized. And we have some inheritance which we receive from our Father, great wealth. But because, like, when one is underage, for instance, if the king passes away and his son is too young to be the king, then some administrators are appointed to administrate in his behalf. So in our case, that we have a great inheritance from the Lord, but administrators that have been appointed on our behalf are our mind and intelligence. And they come up with a saying, oh, we're doing everything for you. But it's actually a complete lie. They're just squandering your wealth irresponsibly. Your mind and your intelligence is utilizing your senses and squandering whatever wealth, your youth, any possibilities you have for a bright future. Your mind and intelligence are squandering those opportunities. But they'll keep on lying. They'll say, we're doing everything for you. They have you convinced they're acting in your best interest. But Srila Maharaj talks about the only way to really help, since the soul is like a minor soul, like a child, is to appoint a major soul to, rather than the mind and senses, but a major soul who will be appointed to help that minor soul. And who is the major soul? The spiritual master. The qualified spiritual master will properly guide the minor soul, which is like us, someone who's coming into Krishna consciousness, but one whose senses, mind and aren't out of control, and the mind and intelligence are cheaters. They're just usurping your wealth and squandering it, going out to nightclubs and gambling and spending all your wealth. Mind and intelligence, they're not to be trusted. Okay. So, for even a knowledgeable person tends to act accordingly to his nature, mundane inclinations. The living being's endeavors are dictated by their natures. What then can repression accomplish? And you won't be very successful in repressing your natural, the forces that are driving you. Now, somebody may be in goodness, maybe they apparently are doing better, but even a person in the mode of goodness is not properly situated. There's a saying that even there are accidents even on the royal highway. Okay. I thought that was a nice expression there. Indriyas yendriyasyarte ragadvesho vyavastito tayorva na vasham agachet toyasya paripantino. Indriyas yendriyasyarte ragadvesho vyavastito tayorna vasham agachet toyasya paripantino. Although the senses are attracted to and repelled by the sense objects, one must not be controlled by these urges, for they are the greatest enemy of the candidate for self-realization. Although the senses are attracted to and repelled by the sense objects, one must not be controlled by these urges, for they are the greatest enemy of the candidate for self-realization, one's uncontrolled senses. And they're always, one can be supposedly in a peaceful mode, but we have so many different senses, and just one sense can hook up with the object of the senses and can completely take you in another direction and take you up. Just one sense meeting with the object of the senses, whether it's the eyes, whether it's ears, or whether it's the tongue. Therefore, don't underestimate the tongue either, because as we're always praying before we take prasadam, Sharirala Vidyajal Jandriya Taiko, we're saying, of all the senses, the tongue is the most difficult to control. So one is attached to tasting food, and one is attached to speaking all manners of gossip and irrelevant talks, action of the tongue. But what to speak of the eyes meeting up, seeing something that attracts the eyes, and one's mind is carried off in that direction. Or one hears something, some sound that, and this is, and what can repression accomplish? If you take somebody, for instance, a person that is very much, for instance, a man who's very much attached to women, right? And you put that person in the middle of a forest, he'll see a beautiful woman behind every tree. That is how the mind acts. Although the senses are attracted to and repelled by the sense objects, one must not be controlled by these urges, for they are the greatest enemy of the candidate for self-realization. Shriyan swadharmo viguna paradharmat swanustitat swadharme niranam shreya paradharmo mayavaha even if it is imperfect. It is better to do one's duty according to one's own nature than to do another's well. Even death and in discharge of one's own duty is better, for to perform another's is dangerous. Commentary. The eternal super-excellent natural function, dharma, of the soul is pure devotion for Adhoksaja, the transcendental Lord. Therefore, even if this function is somewhat imperfectly attempted by one with external malpractices, such an attempt will be superior to the good practices within the material modes of nature and worldly chain of actions and habits foreign to the soul's nature. Even if death occurs during the cultivation of such pure devotion in proper saintly association, it is the bestower of the ultimate good. But in the name of good practices to ignorantly follow another's path, anything other than devotion for the Lord, Dvitiya Binivesha, is Bhayava, endangering to the spiritual progress of the soul. And the verse quoted here is from the Bhagavatam, where Sridhar Maharaj comments, but in the name of good practices to ignorantly follow another's path, anything other than devotion for the Lord, Dvitiya Binivesha, is Bhayava, endangering to the spiritual progress of the soul. So there's a verse, this Dvitiya Binivesha and Bhaya. It's from this verse from Bhagavatam. Bhayam Dvitiya Binivesha Tashad Ishada Petasha Viparya Yosmriti Tanmaya Yato Buddha Abhajetam Bhakyaika Yesham Gurudeva Tatma. A person of fine intelligence will serve with single-minded devotion his Lord, who is his teacher and dearmost friend. But those who have turned away from the Lord adopt the illusory ego of considering the perishable body to be the self, forgetting their true identities. Their consciousness absorbed in secondary pursuits, in other words, mundane objectives. They are always fearful on account of the body and its attachments. So, talked about this a few nights ago, where he said that Bhayam Dvitiya Biniveshatad Shad, that what this verse is actually describing is how the soul, who's the natural servant of the Lord, mistakenly conceives of one's own nature as being the enjoyer. Actually, it's the Lord who's the enjoyer. But when one mistakenly conceives of oneself as being the enjoyer, and this is the purpose of life, then one becomes covered over by fear. And what is the result of, why is that fear coming about? Because one who is by nature Krishna's servitor actually becomes, by this mistaken conception, becomes Krishna's competitor. The nature of the false ego does not want to serve the Lord. Jealousy arises. Why should I serve the Lord? Rather, I should be the enjoyer. People are bringing so many nice, pretty flowers to the temple here for the service of the Lord. They should bring those flowers to me. People are offering so many meals to the Lord. They should bring that food to me. Everything should be done for my enjoyment. It seems that this is a parody, but this is really what is happening to the person in mundane consciousness. And as a result of that, one identifies with the body, and then one becomes fearful by it. Why? Because this body is perishable. Instead of understanding yourself to be an immortal soul. Immortal, right? Not immoral. Immortal soul. Then you have no fear. The Bhagavad Gita says even a little advancement will save you from the greatest fear. So here it is said very clearly in this verse, the description is Even if it is imperfect, it is better to do one's duty according to one's own nature than to do another's will. Even death in the discharge of one's own duty is better to perform another's is dangerous. So what it means doing one's own duty is one should engage oneself in devotion and serving the Lord, even if one does so imperfectly. One should not envy someone who's in mundane consciousness, thinking, "Oh, I can do this better. I am more able to accomplish this." No, your duty is to serve the Lord in whatever natural way you're instructed to do so, not to enter into some kind of competition with the Lord or envy somebody else's course of action. No, you should do things properly as helped by devotees, advanced devotees, a spiritual master, association of devotees. Arjuna vacha atakena prayukto yam papam charati purusha anichan api varshneya balad eva niyojita. Arjuna inquired, "O descendant of the Vrishnis, by what is the living being compelled to commit sinful activities, even unwillingly as if by force?" So why is it one acts against one's own best interest? So now Krishna answers, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajo Guna Samudbhava Mahashano Mahapapma Vidi Enam Iha Vairinam. The Supreme Lord replied, "It is the desire to enjoy the mundane that induces a person to commit sin, and in different situations it produces anger. It is utterly insatiable, extremely malicious, and the worst enemy of the living being in this world. It is the desire to enjoy the mundane." Now, we know that exists. We even hear, I know it's not what we would call scripture, but in Milton's Paradise Lost, this is the words of the devil. Which we can see, the devil doesn't represent a very good situation, might be akin to somebody under the control of the worst modes of material nature. And then the devil comments, "It is better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven." That's the mentality of the devil, not so far removed from the mentality of the conditioned soul. And Arjuna asks, well, why is it that one's driven to act against one's own better interest, even unwillingly? And then Krishna answers, "It is the desire to enjoy the mundane that induces a person to commit sin. Kama esha, krodha esha." First there is kama, just out and out lust. Lust to enjoy so many mundane things. Lusty after everything. Like, even we shouldn't blaspheme dogs by calling somebody a lusty dog. But, dogs are are more noble than that. At least they have some sense of loyalty to their master. But rather, kama esha, krodha esha. But first comes kama, lust. And then when the lust is not satisfied, krodha esha, then one's very angry. You can see that. If your natural desires are thwarted, then you'll become angry. Why did this happen? So, Krishna answers. Supreme Lord replied, "It is a desire to enjoy the mundane that induces a person to commit sin, and in different situations it produces anger, especially when you're unsuccessful. It is utterly insatiable, extremely malicious, and the worst enemy of the living being in this world." So we should understand, sometimes we're hearing, I once talked with Goswami Maharaj, Bhakti Srila Goswami Maharaj, and he said, actually, everybody's translation is their own interpretation. Everybody's translation is an interpretation. That's what's... So, when you translate Guru Maharaj's message from Sanskrit, and I'm sure that it's been done nicely, in this case by my Sagar Maharaj, then also it is one's own, you can say, interpretation. But here, Supreme Lord said, there's the desire to enjoy the mundane that induces a person to commit sin, and in different situations, it produces anger. Okay, then 38. Dumena vriyate vanir yatadarsho malena cha yato bena vrito garbas tata tenedam avritam. As fire is thinly veiled by smoke, as a mirror is thickly covered with dust, and as the embryo remains completely enclosed within the womb, similarly, this desire covers the consciousness of the living being in these 3 degrees of intensity according to the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, respectively. So, as a fire, the living entities, desire covers the consciousness of the living entity. As fire is thinly veiled by smoke, perhaps mode of goodness, one could say, is a mirror is thickly covered by dust, the mode of passion, and the embryo remains completely enclosed within the womb, helplessly controlled by the mode of ignorance. Similarly, this desire covers the consciousness of the living being in these 3 degrees of intensity according to the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, respectively. This desire covers the consciousness of the living being. Okay. Avritam jnanam etena jnanino nitya vairina kamarupena kunteya dushparena linate. Avritam jnanam etena jnanino nitya vairina kamarupena kunteya dushpurena nalena cha. Knowledge is covered by desire, the constant enemy of the wise. It burns like an insatiable fire, never satisfied by offerings of butter. Of course, if you offer butter, a fuel, into a fire, what happens? Will it become satisfied? No, it'll just burn higher and stronger. The more fuel that you feed into the fire, in this case, butter, we've seen that. We've seen that with a fire sacrifice. The more ghee you pour onto the wood, the more strongly it burns. So knowledge is covered by desire, the constant enemy of the wise. It burns like an insatiable fire, never satisfied by offerings of butter. So this desire is the constant enemy of the wise. And then, Indriyani manobhuder asya dishtanam uchate etar vimo hayat yesha jnanam avritya dehinam. It is said that this enemy, desire, dwelling within the senses, mind, and intelligence, covers the perception of the embodied living being and deludes him. And as we gave that example before, this is why one needs a major soul. One needs a guide. Many people have this, some kind of modern view that I don't need a guru, because I don't want anybody to come between me and realization, or come between me and the Supreme, or come between me and the Lord. I don't need, no, but you do need. why can you say, if I take off my glasses, I don't see better. Things are more blurry. When I put my glasses on, that's not coming between me and what I'm observing. It's enhancing my vision. So I have not the ability, without the help of the spiritual master, to be perceiving reality, not even distantly. So therefore, I need the help in enabling me to come to the point. And it said that this enemy, desire, dwelling within the senses, mind, and intelligence, deludes the perception of the embodied living being and deludes him. So that will be the help of some guidance. Then, tasmat tvam indriyanyado niyamya bharatarshava papmanam rajahiyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Therefore, O noblest of the Bharatas, control your senses and destroy this desire, the embodiment of sin, which destroys both knowledge and realization. So, therefore, O noblest of the Bharatas, control your senses and destroy this desire, the embodiment of sin, which destroys both knowledge and realization. And Arjuna is very noble, and he's giving what sounds, especially by modern values, to be very good reasons why not to engage in the ghastly warfare of the battle of Kurukshetra. But Krishna is telling him that you are under the control of your mind, your senses, intelligence are all being covered over by your own personal thoughts, your own personal desires. You may be very noble, but still you're injecting your own interest into this, and it's not really your real interest, it's what's being dictated to you by the mind and senses, and this will not lead to your accomplishing what is really in your best interest. Therefore, O noblest of the Bharatas, control your senses and destroy this desire, the embodiment of sin which destroys both knowledge and realization. Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya parammana manasastu para budher ya paratastu sa. It is said by the wise that the senses are superior to matter. The mind is superior to the senses, and the intelligence is superior to the mind, and the soul is superior to even the intelligence. So we're going from, you can say, from gross to finer. It is said by the wise that the senses are superior to matter. The mind is superior to the senses, and the intelligence is superior to the mind. Intelligence can control the mind, and the soul is superior to even the intelligence, because the soul is only bound to these material considerations by false ego, but actually there are spiritual senses, spiritual mind, spiritual intelligence which can develop. So we are actually covered by a gross body and a subtle body. But here, it is said by the wise that the senses are superior to matter, the mind is superior to the senses, and the intelligence is superior to the mind. And the soul is superior to even the intelligence. So again, our example, having the guidance of a major soul, of a realized soul, will help our soul in controlling the dictations of the mind, the mundane intelligence, and the senses. So, evam bude param budva, evam bude param budva, samstabhyatmanam atmana, jahi shatru mahabaho, kamarupam durasadam. O mighty Arjuna, knowing the soul to be superior to the intelligence, steady the mind with resolute intelligence and destroy the formidable enemy, desire. O mighty Arjuna, knowing the soul to be superior to the intelligence, steady the mind. The soul should utilize the intelligence to steady the mind with resolute intelligence. O mighty Arjuna, knowing the soul to be superior to the intelligence, steady the mind with resolute intelligence and destroy the formidable enemy, desire. One time, Govinda Maharaj, he said that Krishna sometimes is naughty, and Krishna asked what might be considered a naughty question to Maharaj Yudhisthira. And he said, "Oh, Maharaj Yudhisthira, your mother Kunti, she never ages. She's always very beautiful. Do you ever not have some desire for her, for your mother? She's very beautiful. She always looking very youthful. Do you not ever have any desire directed towards her?" And Yudhisthira answered, "Perhaps, but I am able to control myself by dharma buddhi, by my intelligence actually being controlled by proper, we could say spiritual or proper religious utilization of my intelligence." So Srila Govinda Maharaj said, this kind of question is a naughty question by Krishna. But Yudhisthira Maharaj answered, "Perhaps, but I'm always able to control everything by my dharma buddhi, by my spiritual intelligence." So, O mighty Arjuna, knowing the soul to be superior to the intelligence, steady the mind with resolute intelligence and destroy the formidable enemy, desire. And, okay, then we have Iti Shri Mahabharate Sara Sahastriyam Samhitayam Vayasakyam Bhishma Parvane Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Panishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Yogo Nama Tritiyo Jaya. End of chapter 3, the path of action from the conversation of Shri Krishna and Arjuna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishad, the yoga scripture of transcendental knowledge, in Bhishma Parva of Sri Mahabharata, the holy scripture revealed by Srila Vyasadeva in 100,000 verses. So now we're going to sing Hari Haraya. You ready? You'll play Kartos? Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Ganadhara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raguna H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jao Ete Vignana Shabista Puran H.I. Gosai Char Mui Taradas Dasabar Padarenu Mora Panchagras Tadir Charana Sevi Bhakta Saniva Janame More Abhilash H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koryan Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Ranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajaka Charyashta Tarasada Shishimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajaka Charya Ashtatara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Sananda Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Premsi Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Jayom Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Tatara Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmawacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ram Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Kaladvip Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhan. Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Kulandiya Munaju Ki Jai. Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Shri Janavi Puja Ki Jai. Shri Ganga Puja Ki Jai. Today is day for worshipping the Ganges, Ganga. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai.